Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Wiki Weekends, where we wind up a wiki, we take a deep dive, and we keep swimming until we find something fun to talk about. I'm your host for this episode, Lucas Holland, and I'm joined as ever by the lovely Karl Smallwood.
Hello.
Today we are discussing an animated feature film, Karl. I don't know if you are a big fan of it or if you've even seen it.
I most likely have. Is this a Disney film?
This is a Disney Pixar film.
Okay, I watched all of those during the pandemic.
Right, okay. Yeah. So, we are talking about the movie where the tagline is, meet the little voices inside your head.
So, Lilo and Stitch again.
So, Lilo and Stitch, yes, yeah. Exactly, yeah. No, we are talking about Inside Out, Karl. And Inside Out, as you can probably guess, we are recording this around the time that Inside Out 2 is about to come out. It's not out yet, so there'll be no spoilers for that, but there will be spoilers for, like, Inside Out 1, if you can really spoil anything.
Yeah, of all the films to get a sequel, like, half a decade to a decade later, it's that one? Okay.
I mean, I think it's a really good movie to get a sequel for, because if people are unaware about the premise of Inside Out, it is that...
Yes.
It is just a story of a teenage girl, like, going through some changes in her, like, life, including moving to a new place and trying to just deal with being a kid. And the most of the story in Inside Out is about the emotions that are inside her head. And I think it works really well for an idea for a sequel where, oh, well, when she becomes a teenager, new emotions start emerging.
Anxiety. Where can I put my stuff?
Yeah, because she's become a new person. So in that sense, it does make sense. But I do recall when the movie was announced so Disney have just run out of things to anthropomorphize, right? First it was toys, then it was cars, then it was planes. Now it's our emotions. Mm-hmm. And they did it with the concept of the human soul, with soul. It's like, there's no more things to anthropomorphize, Disney. There's nothing.
There was elements.
Oh, the building blocks of the universe, the metaphysical concepts of life itself. It's like, what else, Disney? What else do you want to market and capitalize on?
Water is always getting into something.
We are recording this in a time where Disney's going through some tumultuous changes, to say the least, where they've kind of been over the last couple of years just being like, look, we know that you really enjoyed Turning Red or Luca, and movies like that where they had a deep connection to the creator and an actual, like, real vision that people wanted to see through and write and make stories about. And then it's like, yeah, but how about we just double and triple and quadruple down the fuck on the IP that's already worked?
Yeah, how about we make Toy Story 5?
Yeah, how about Moana 2, Inside Out 2, Toy Story 5, all that jazz? It's like, yay!
Yeah. And I will say, it is kind of fucked that, have you seen, like, you presumably have, like, the announcement trailers and stuff where they're saying, Inside Out is, like, it's a generational, universal tale that anyone can understand. And then they said, like, Red was a very specific, like, it wasn't. That was like one person's specific vision. It's like, it's the same story, essentially. It's like, it's
Turning
a teenage...
Red, yes.
Yeah, Turning Red, sorry. It's like, it's a story about a teenage girl, or a girl becoming a teenager and discovering new feelings. That's literally the plot of Inside Out as well. Mm-hmm. But one was written by an Asian woman with, like, elements of her own experience. So that's a one story, but the white girl is the universal experience?
Yeah,
what did Disney mean by this?
The white girl in San Francisco, that's the universal experience, Karl.
Maybe it's nice on the inside.
Lucas, I've never heard of teenage girls becoming obsessed with boy bands.
No.
That never happens.
Never.
And that's not a universal story at all. And it's like, that's not what Disney meant, but it is like a weird question to ask yourself,
like,
right?
The reading between the lines of, like, why don't you like Turning Red and Luca?
What do you think he kills with those?
Anything that swims.
Listen, I really like Luca, and it's one of those films where the message, like, I remember, like, the discourse afterwards, like, is this, like, secretly a gay movie? I went, What do you mean secretly? The bits at the end where the rain reveals who people really are, and there's the two old women who like reveal and they become rainbow coloured. It's like, it's the gayest movie ever. It's like, it's so obvious that it's like an allegory for being gay.
Total super secret, Carl. You never noticed it.
It's like, yeah, the rain that reveals who people really are, and there's like, they're all rainbow underneath. Mm-hmm. Too subtle for some people, I suppose.
I suppose so. And, it's one of those of, like, I get that people have enjoyed sequels for Disney movies in the past, but generally speaking, there's not been that many that are the memorable, successful ones. Like, people really like Toy Story 3, and I think people have come to appreciate Toy Story 2 more over time, but I think when it came out, I remember people always saying that they preferred Toy Story 1. Inside Out itself is, like, a genuinely cool and fun concept at the time it came out, and again, it's just going to be like, now it's like, get it 3 sequels to make sure, but I do, as I said earlier, genuinely think that there is good room for a sequel to this movie, because, people's emotional depth changes as they grow.
Yeah, unless you're on Twitter, then it shrinks. My favourite part of that film, though, is like the looks into other people's head. That's the thing I wish they'd explored more. Well, I love just like, maybe I'm older, but I love like when the two parents are talking and you see like the dad's like little guys in his head and the mum's little, it's like, wait, what did she say? Sorry, I was busy watching football. It's like, oh god, no, what do we do? Just press the button that says, I understand, honey. And you see the ones in her head of like, he's not listening to you. It's like, oh, I love that.
What did she say?
What? Oh, sorry, sir. No one was listening.
Is it garbage night? We left the toilet seat up. What? What is it, woman? What?
He's making that stupid face again.
I could strangle him right now.
And then you've got, like, them reminiscing about, like, do you remember that guy that we met on holiday that was, like, the super dreamy guy that we could have got with, and instead we went with this guy?
And then you just see them, like, pulling up the memory. It's like, it's a really neat way of visualising, people forgive the pun, how memory works. And it's not original by any means, stretch of the imagination. No. The idea of little people being inside your head who control like what you say and think has been a thing for decades.
Come, fly with me, gachinya.
I'm a sap who likes to cry at movies anyway, but this did get a good cry out of me with like
that's just
whole...
Disney's raison. Yeah, Disney's raison d'etre, right?
It is, and like the whole like bing-bong situation, and it's like, no, like, Riley doesn't need me anymore. It's like, no, bing-bong!
Take her to the moon for me. Okay?
But that's just Disney. They know, because they want to sell that bing-bong toy at Disneyland. Come on.
Sell the bing-bong toy that just fades away slowly as you get older.
They should sell it, and it's like, you don't buy it, you buy a license to it, and they take it off you in a year. Do that.
Inside Out is a 2015 American 3D computer animated adventure comedy drama. Jesus Christ, that's a lot of words. A Disney Pixar film, which was released June 19th, 2015. So it's like almost going to release on the 9th anniversary.
Couldn't wait that 10 years.
Yeah, they needed to make sure they get that sequel money early, Carl. They could have done that of like, hey, 10-year anniversary, like, here's Inside Out 2.
No, in this house, the Mouse House, we celebrate the 9-year anniversary because it's more profitable.
Yeah, it was Pixar's 15th feature-length animated film, and keeping in with Pixar tradition, a short film called Lava accompanied the movie.
Did not see Lava because I think I watched Inside Out after the fact, so on Disney Plus they don't give you the shorts beforehand, although I wish they did.
I think they are in their own collection or something, though.
But that's the thing, I don't end up watching them when they're in their own collection, but when you'd go watch a Disney movie in the theatre, I do like they're one of the few companies that still give you the short beforehand. Yeah,
like, I would appreciate if they at least had the option to begin with the short and then just skip it straight away if you wanted to.
Yeah. Like, this is like the theatrical experience you would have had. It's just a nice like mood setter, isn't it? It's like, just like, and it gives them an opportunity because those shorts are always used a way to test new animation techniques or give people they didn't want to give a full movie to. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of creative control. Show us what you've got.
Yeah, it wasn't Pixar but I remember the one before Wreck-It Ralph that happened, or before or after, but Paperman.
Paperman's real good, yeah. Like, you're going to put the picture in of, like, when I did the cosplay of that?
You get to see me doing, like, a Fix-It Felix cosplay with Carl doing the Paperman cosplay.
The Fix-It... When you did Fix-It Felix, one, that was a really good... Like, it was not a cosplay, it was a... People think that's not a good cosplay.
It was a, night out.
A Disney-themed night out. But when you did Fix-It Felix, I legit... So it's the first time I'd ever seen you without a beard with your regular hair colour. And I think... I didn't recognise you, right?
Most people who I'd been friends with for multiple years at that point didn't immediately recognise me. Obviously, I'll have had a picture on screen at some point. It wasn't my natural hair. I did dye it brown, though, so it was the first time in years anyone had seen me with a natural-looking hair colour.
Yeah, and I just remember we were talking. I think I asked them, like, oh, so, like, how do you know the birthday person? And you just went, Carl, it's me, Lucas. I'm like, oh, shit! I legit didn't recognise you.
I was sat next to another one of our friends for a good, 10-15 minutes, and I must have just been, either sitting there quietly enjoying myself or, speaking to somebody else, and then I remember saying something, and they turned around and was like, wait, Lucas, I've been sitting next to you this entire time. I didn't realise that was you. What? Me and my friend were our mutual friend, sorry, were like, Fix It Felix and Wreck-It Ralph, and you were like, I'm going to paint myself grey. And be
I was at
Paperman.
work. I was at work. I needed a costume I could put on. So it was my work uniform, and I was like, "Okay, paint me grey." So I think I went to the bathroom and to give someone the grey spray paint. And went, "Do it."
And I remember you having the little stack of paper with you for a while as well.
Yeah, I took it to the nightclub. I took the paper to the nightclub, and I was making paper airplanes and throwing them around the nightclub. It was great. That was a great night.
Is that a viable hookup technique in a nightclub, just throwing paper airplanes at people?
I think a lot of people, not many people recognised it until I said, oh, it's Paperman. Did you watch Wreck-It Ralph? Oh, yeah!
He's like, why is this grey man throwing paper at me? But yeah, we've got a brief just synopsis here of what happens Inside Out the movie. An 11-year-old girl named Riley Anderson moves from Minnesota to San Francisco. She thought everything would be great, but started having doubts after seeing her new house and other aspects of the town. Her emotions, joy, sadness, anger, disgust, and fear, try their best to make Riley happy. When it's Riley's first day of school, joy and sadness are ejected out of the headquarters through a series of mishaps. Now it's up to anger, disgust, and fear to make Riley happy until they return, but things go quickly downhill.
I'm done. You pretend to be Joy.
What? Okay,
It was fine, I guess. I don't know. Oh, very smooth.
Yeah, and it's a very, very obvious allegory for depression and anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Is it what happens when, the joy literally leaves?
Yeah, and there's quite a lot has been said about... Again, it's not overly subtle, but it's not commented on directly, but just some of the things about the emotion, the father, the emotion leading his head is anger.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of just the typically male-brained thing of the thing that's leading his emotions is anger, frustration. Not necessarily a bad. That's something they talk about, isn't it? These aren't bad emotions. Mm-hmm. It's not bad to be angry. It's a natural thing to feel angry. Just don't let it rule your life. Same fear and disgust. Disgust is not a bad thing. It's what keeps you safe.
Mm-hmm. And I really enjoy the whole idea where the memories in her head are all coded a different color depending on which is the controlling emotion at the time, and then they start thinking, oh well, I'm accidentally destroying these memories because I've started turning them into I think it's sadness starts touching them and making them sad happy memories and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's nostalgia, right? It's not bad to be sad about a memory. It's you can miss something and be sad about it, and that's what they have to realise. A happy memory can be a sad memory is still a memory you want to remember. It's a good message for younger people watching.
It really
the emotions
is.
Are valid.
The realization within the emotions in that movie is just that it's not necessarily bad to make sure that your core memories have a little bit of each emotion within them. It's not that sadness is destroying those memories and destroying happy memories. It's that they're becoming more complex over time.
Yeah, because Riley, as a person within the movie, is becoming more complex herself. Like, you can't always be led by one emotion, whether it be joy, happiness, sadness, disgust, fear, any of those.
And I think one of them is like the memory of her thinking about Minnesota and playing on the ice with her father and how happy that is. But because she's moved away, then that gets tinged with like a bit of sadness and a bit of anger, and that's okay. Because you're allowed to be happy about that, but you're also allowed to feel sad that that's not happening in your life anymore.
We did, till I moved away. Hey, what
Wait,
gives?
what?
Hey, Sadness, you touched a memory? We talked about this.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
Being able to manage your emotions in a healthy way is critical to growing as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reminded it's like, I forget what it was now, it's like a teacher or something talking about like a moment that just made them break down. They had like a little boy in their class. And he said like the little boy, like he was crying, and he said he didn't know what to say. So he said, oh, come on, big boys don't cry. And like the kid just went, I'm allowed to feel sad. And it's like this grown-ass man just responds like, I didn't know how to respond. And it took like, the wisdom of a child to make me realise like how fucked up it is to not let a boy feel and express emotions in like an honest, earnest way.
That's just a common saying that, big boys don't cry and all this jazz. And it's like, oh no, actually, when you take a step back and think about that, so it's a really like horrible thing to teach little boys, that they're not allowed to feel that emotion.
Yeah, and it's like similarly like, the parents, where you see like they're not as emotionally well adjusted as, like, no, they're not as emotionally well adjusted as perhaps they could be.
Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily that they're, bad for feeling that way or anything, but you see different characters, and it does say here that there's multiple characters in the credits. They get like, it's shown what kind of emotions rule their head, such as like Riley's teacher, the worker in the pizzeria, the cool girl, the real Jangles the clown, Gary the bus driver, and a dog and a cat. And it's like, for example, they just show like the cool girl, her ruling emotion instead of joy, I believe, is actually fear.
And she's scared of not being perceived as being cool. Like, she's ruled by the fear that everyone else might dislike her if she doesn't keep up the facade.
Yeah, the cool girl has fear as the main emotion, and the bus driver's emotions, aside from the colours, all look exactly like anger.
Because it's the jokes, bus drivers are always angry.
The joke is that, yeah, and it's just like, the bus drivers gone to that point in their life where just, they're so fed up of driving the bus that all 5 emotions have just turned basically into anger.
Which is not healthy.
No, it's not.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised if there is a reference to just online discourse in this new movie. Because, she's a teenager. I would be very surprised there isn't, like, just someone on the internet who has, like, just 50 anger things in their head.
I think in one of the trailers for the new movie, it's like, one of the new fears is obviously embarrassment, and it's like, yeah, that feels like being a teenager, alright, all of a sudden everything becomes embarrassing to you.
And it's not an emotion you really have as a kid, because kids don't, they're you've not learned to feel shame or embarrassment yet. Mm-hmm. It's a thing that has to be taught, which is weird to think, right? Like, you need to be taught to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something like that children innately feel.
No, it's not really. And, like, it's just one of those weird things where, we kind of teach kids that you should be embarrassed by doing stupid things sometimes. It's like, well, maybe just let them be stupid.
Well, it's the C.S. Lewis quote. I'll track it down because I'll like butcher it otherwise. But
yeah, sure. While you have a look up there, it does say each person does have like the kind of same set of emotions, but it does change with like appearances. And as we said, like even the bus driver, where it's like they've got 5 different emotions, but all of them are the short, stout character model for the anger character. So it's implied that all of those emotions have become slowly more anger like over time.
Yes.
The ruling emotion for Riley is joy, where joy, played by Amy Poehler, is like the main character in the head and like leads the group, so to speak. And obviously that changes towards the end of the movie where they realise they've got to work better together.
Yeah. But being a healthy, emotionally well-adjusted person requires that you are able to feel and be in control of all your emotions at once. And I do have that C.S. Lewis quote here. When I became a man, I put away childish things, including the fear of childishness and the desire to be very grown up. It's just very succinctly put there of, I put away childish things, but the fear of being childish and the wonder of a child, like they're completely innocent. sometimes it benefits to look at the world the way a child would.
It's one of those things where I guess like doing what we do and having that privilege has let me kind of rediscover a bit of that, of like, well, I don't necessarily need to fit in as much with like trying to, you know, get and keep just a job that is governed under like another workplace where like other people are, you know, under those like hiring practices and stuff and making those decisions of whether I should work there or not. And like, yeah, it certainly did make me a bit more like toned down and like want, you know, for example, when I was looking for a job, the first thing I did was stop dyeing my hair, stop like painting my nails and sticking out as much. And like, it's easier to get hired if you kind of blend in a little bit.
But at the same time, it's like, then you're hiding part of who you are. It's like,
exactly,
in all aspects of life. Like people go on like dating apps and stuff. You know, you have guys who say, "Oh, I don't want to tell them that I like playing video games." It's like, but you like doing that. Don't you want to date someone who, at the very least, understands that this is a thing that you enjoy? Why would you want to spend your life with someone who doesn't let you, or doesn't appreciate this aspect of your personality?
It's like that classic thing, isn't it, of I'm going to be on a first date very kind of inward and not explain all of like my interests that might be perceived as like embarrassing or something until like later on, or I'm not going to let them see like my weird side just yet. And it's like, let them.
Yeah, even though like in nearly every like interview and study that's ever conducted, when you ask people about what drew you to this person, it's like they've just got such like, you know, a childish sense of whimsy, or you know, they're just so unapologetically themselves.
Yeah. Going back to just talking about like the ruling emotions, I do think it's funny that like, yeah, in Riley's father, you mentioned earlier, like, anger is control of that situation, and like inside of a mother, sadness is controlling, and it's like
you can read a lot into that.
That very typical, like, yeah, it is just that stereotype of a marriage, right? Is like the woman is sad and the father is angry. And
it's you can read into it. It's sad, like we know she's looking back on that memory, like the hot guy she could have dated. So you know, it's a very common thing. It's not a thing that's often acknowledged in fiction, and a lot of people feel very inordinately guilty for feeling experiences like that. Like, do I dislike my children, or do I dislike my lot in life? It's like, it's okay to feel these emotions.
I actually really like the fact that that is in there, but then resolved in a way where it's like, no, actually, my husband is actually a really caring person, and they kind of realize by the end of it of like them falling back in love with him again. And it's a really sweet thing of like, oh no, actually, fuck that hot guy. He was probably a douchebag. This is the man we love.
He's a really good guy. Just in case.
This is a really weird jump. If you'd like to make a very weird tangent. And I'm not sure if you've ever been able to find the clip.
Right.
So, are you familiar with the work of Kinsey?
No.
So he was like this very weird jump, a sexologist, the first one, where he studied like human sexuality. And there's a film about his life starring Liam Neeson. And they have like the interview scene where he's interviewing all the people about their habits in the bedroom. And you have like a very funny scene. Everyone has like very different, like, it's like this very demure, well put together lady. It's like, so how often do you have sex? She's like 3 times a day. And then like, you know, they go through a big, like, you know, all these talking head sections. But the thing at the end they all ask is that normal? And that's what like Kinsey realised. They're like, there is no quote unquote normal for this, because being a human is such a broad thing. It's like emotions. Like, is it normal to feel this way? Yeah.
It's not necessarily that anger is always just anger, as you say. It can be like mixed with other emotions and controlled in certain ways to be like, you know, resembling something like passionate and stuff like
that's
that.
That's what they see, isn't it? It's when they start to combine emotions towards the end of the film. Realise that things are more complex than just being happy or sad.
It does actually note that they were quite, like Disney themselves were quite unsure about this movie to begin with, and weren't sure whether they need to rework a lot of the movie because they were scared that it was going to be like too complex a film for kids to grasp. And then it does say, of course, that didn't happen in the end, and they had like a original, you know, just like showing to a test audience, and it went down really well, and they, you know, kind of got rid of those disparaging thoughts about the movie and realised that, oh no, this can make money. which is what they ultimately care about.
It's the thing of like, oh, will kids understand this? They're actually a lot smarter than you think. As long as you present it in a way that is like suitable for their age, kids can understand, pass, and engage with a variety of quite difficult subjects.
Yeah,
more so than some fully grown adults. Because they're essentially a blank slate.
Kids sometimes come up with things that might sound stupid, but all very smart, and it's like, but they're just going off what they know, and it's a lot simpler. Of like, same with how basically you have to teach kids discrimination when they're younger. They don't really see people as being different.
Yeah, we've probably all seen those pictures online of like the classic one is it's a little kid wearing like a full Ku Klux Klan outfit because he's at like a Ku Klux Klan rally, and he just goes up to a black police officer who's like standing guard and just touches his shield, because obviously the kid doesn't see this man as like a figure of hate or something like that they should dislike. They see it as they're curious.
Yeah,
and that's like another thing as well, isn't it? Like when it comes to like issues that people would feel embarrassed or uncomfortable about, kids get right to the heart of because they just don't have that filter.
Yeah. You see it a lot of times when, like, oh, well, I don't know how to, like, explain to my kids what gay people are, for example. And it's like, then you explain, well, instead of, like, a man loving a woman, it can be that, a man might love a man or a woman might love a woman, etc. And the kids just go, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's actually a ridiculously simple concept. You're the one making it complicated.
Because they don't have all of the extra emotional and social weight that goes along with those implications. They just get told the fact and go, okay.
Yeah. So, it's a difficult subject approach. No, it's difficult for you to talk about.
And it's similar with this, of like, kids don't find it very hard to understand 5 emotions in a head. But then it's, we're then trying to, build in way more complex thoughts and feelings and emotions around that. That might be the part that makes kids like maybe less perceptive to it. But
look,
clearly,
if kids watched like A Bug's Life and they understand the concept of overthrowing capitalism, they can understand the idea of sometimes it's okay to be sad.
You ants stay back! Oh, this was such a bad idea.
They might not pick up on the nuance of like, oh, but it's weird that, like, Ango was in charge of the dad's brain. It's like, that doesn't necessarily need to translate to what the kid sees, but
it does allow for discussions like this.
The movie was very well received. It does say here that the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes gives the film a 98% based on 317 reviews, with an average rating of 8.9 out of 10. And
that's just, it's the Disney thing, right? It's like, have Disney ever really made a bad movie?
Like,
can you think? Besides, unless you go back to like Song of the South, which I bet probably got good reviews at the time.
It probably did. 98% of people would recommend watching it.
That's the problem, yes.
And 8.9 out of 10 is a very good average rating, for sure. But like the joke about Paddington 2 being like a perfect movie because it's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes is like, no, it just means it's the most non-offensive movie of all time.
Yeah, so like Rotten Tomatoes, if anyone's like curious what we're talking about, if Rotten Tomatoes getting a 100% rating means 100% of reviewers recommend it. It doesn't mean that they're giving it a 100% rating or 10 out of 10. It means that they just think it's like a movie worth your time.
I think generally speaking, what it means is that it got like a 7 out of 10 or higher from the reviewer when translated to a 10 out of 10 score.
People put way too much stock in it though, and they also get way too annoyed. It's like, oh, it's not a perfect movie. It's like, no one's saying it's a perfect movie. They're saying it is, as you said, it's so just non-offensively decent. You can't really find enough flaws about it to say it's not worth your time.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, can you say to a person that it's worth watching? Yes.
Yeah. It's like a McDonald's double cheeseburger. You can't really say anything bad about it. It's like, well, it's a McDonald's double cheeseburger.
Yeah, it's not great, but there's also no problem with it necessarily. So yeah, some of the trivia about this movie is really interesting, and just talking about like the emotions themselves. So I'm going to jump back into that. And
yeah, go on, lay it on me.
Another note here is that according to Pete Docter, each emotion is based on a shape and what each emotion represents. So joy is a burst of energy / a star. Sadness,
that makes sense, yeah,
is like a teardrop. anger is like a fire brick, disgust is like a piece of broccoli, and fear is a raw nerve. And then,
that's rough. Yeah, raw nerves.
Yeah.
Should I tell my raw nerve story? This makes people cringe, but it happened. So I've got that bite on my arm. I got bitten by a dog.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So I got bitten by a dog many, many years ago, and it took a huge chunk out of my arm while I was walking down the road, and I was on my way to a friend's house, so the person with the dog ran off. I go to my friend's house, they see, like, a kid, I think he's like 11 years old or something, big bloody gash on his arm. They say, okay, we'll clean it up for you. So they take me into the kitchen, and I didn't realise the dog had ripped up the arm to the point there was an exposed nerve, because it was so full of blood. They then ran it under the cold tap. Apparently I passed out instantly, and the next thing I remember is I was in the hospital, because I had cold water poured on a raw nerve.
That's rough. I've never heard that story from you before. I knew, like, about the bite and stuff. Oh, God. But, yeah, just to, lighten things back up, it does say that Pete Docter says he loves broccoli too much, however.
Broccoli is awesome. Like, broccoli, anyone who says they don't like broccoli just hasn't eaten good broccoli.
And hasn't had it prepared in a nice way before, yeah. And it is one of those things where just, like, I do find it... He's... Like, he really likes broccoli, but he knows enough people don't like broccoli that he's willing to say that, like, yeah, disgust can look like a piece of broccoli. But he's like, but me sitting there going, I really like broccoli, though.
So that's the thing. Should we talk about, like, that's the facts everyone knows, right? That bit where it's broccoli on pizza, they change it for international versions of the film because some regions do not find the idea of broccoli on pizza to be all that upsetting. It's something Disney does a lot, just for regional reasons. So that's for, like, just to make jokes make sense. Other times it's for just references that wouldn't work. So for when Riley is upset or disgusted by the idea of there being broccoli on pizza, I think in Japan it's changed to something else. Likewise, when her sister is disgusted at the idea of eating broccoli, because broccoli is, like, not really a common thing in some markets, it's bell peppers. Likewise, when the dad
I think it's not her sister, I think it's just, like, her younger self, but yeah.
And then you have, like... Oh, yeah, sorry. And then, because it's been a while since I watched the film, and then likewise when the dad is, like, thinking of he's watching hockey in the American version, it's soccer in European markets. And then there's, like, they do that for a bunch of films, like Zootopia, which is in some regions known as Zootropolis. So, just the fact the title's different, yeah.
Like, Metropolis translates better in, like, I think in the UK and stuff, it's like Zootropolis instead. But yeah, it does actually talk about the names of the movies, which I want to move on to in a minute, but it does also mention here that the emotions in Riley's mum's head are all female and resemble her, and same with the dad, all being male and resembling him. But Riley has 3 female emotions and 2 male emotions who look nothing like her. In this aspect, she is very unique, as everyone else's emotions are all the same gender and clearly resemble the human host.
But you could be arguing they're older. Those are older people who have had chance to their emotions to become their own, whereas Riley as a child is quite literally she's the sum of her 2 parents' parts, so of course she's going to take after them both, and she's not yet developed fully into her own person.
Yeah, and, like, that's the thing is, I don't particularly know whether they were trying to say much past that, but it is an interesting little fact.
It is, and I did look up something now, because this is a fun bonus fact about the shape of the emotions. Are you familiar with the Boober-Kiki effect? I
probably am. Is this something to do with, like, rounded and sharp objects?
Yes, it is. So, what's your understanding of it?
Just generally the rounder something is, the more, like, kind of soft and unthreatening it is, whereas the opposite goes for something that's, like, perceived as more sharp. Yeah,
so this is like a study they would do where they make up a shape, it's like a weird blob of a shape, and they'll put 2 words, booba or booba, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, or kiki. The first having, like, soft plosive sounds of, like, the b, the second one having, like, the hard consonants of the k. Near universally, people would say the soft round shape is booba, whereas like one with, like, sharp angles and stuff would be kiki. And it's just this universal, near innate thing that exists in people's minds. And I guess the same for, like, emotions, where just what do you think of, like, anger? Like, just solid blocky lines, red. Right? What is it? Just how would you interpret this emotion just on instinct?
It's like, what's sadness? And it's like a blob, like a teardrop, like just a amorphous blob of some kind of just like, meh.
That's like, I imagine that's probably like what comes into it, of like they probably did a lot of market research or testing, like, do you intuit this as being anger?
Yes, I'm sure. And if they didn't, I'm sure the fire that then comes out of his head probably sells
Yes.
it.
No dessert? Oh, sure. We'll eat our dinner right after you eat this.
Obviously, like, the hot-headedness of anger.
Very literal. But that's like, some of it's made for kids, some of it's made for the adults watching the film with those kids.
And I mentioned just the movie's name because of the idiomatic nature of the English title. A lot of different translations happened due to making that like almost like pun-like nature work in different territories. And I understand that these are very literal translations and that it works better in the languages that they're spoken.
Classic,
but it's just something that I find very funny reading the literal translations as they would be in English. So bear with me. I know that like this sounds better in their own languages, but some of these are really just like fun to go through. So one in Cantonese is "Hi with friend of inside." We've got in Finnish, it is "inside out, in the minds of the mind." We've got for German, it's "everything went wild" or "everything is upside down." In Kazakh, it's "an adventure in the head." Latvian is very literal, "mind games." I'm like, yeah, maybe, yeah, okay.
You go Latvia.
In Mandarin Chinese, it's "the special team in the head." In Mandarin Taiwan, it's "turning inside the head." In Polish, it "doesn't fit inside the head." Slovene is "the hustle and bustle in my head."
I'm noticing a theme here.
Yeah. Thai, "fantastic emotional turmoil." And Vietnam, "the puzzle emotions." And there's a few more, but I just thought they were some of like the fun ones to go through. Just
it's a common thing, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the Japanese names for the Fast and Furious movies.
Oh, have you got them all?
Fast and Furious is not called Fast and Furious in Japan. It's called Wild Speed. And I'm just going to go in order now. So Too Fast, Too Furious, which is a fantastic name. Wild Speed X2. The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift is Wild Speed X3 Tokyo Drift. Fast and Furious is Wild Speed Max. Fast 5 is Wild Speed Mega Max. Fast and Furious 6 is Wild Speed Euro Mission. Furious 7 is Wild Speed Sky Mission. Fate of the Furious is Wild Speed Icebreak, and Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw is Wild Speed Super Combo.
Oh, because that's
Just
the thing.
that's rad as shit, right?
They really didn't anticipate how far that franchise was going when they got to number 4 and called it Max Speed, and after that point, it's like, oh shit, what Mega Max, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, and what's better than Mega Max? Oh shit, it's like we can't keep going further.
What does it mean to go further beyond? Japan knows all about that.
Another fun bit of trivia here, Carl, is that the writers considered going up to 27 different emotions, but settled on 5.
5 is nice and easy, yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine that movie with 27 different characters in the head.
Yeah, it's that classic thing. It's like 5 is a nice round number.
Mm-hmm.
I also like just look at some other Pixar translations for like Japan, Lucas. Up is Old Man Carl's Flying House. Encanto is Mirabelle and the House Full of Magic. Turning Red, Me Sometimes Lesser Panda. That's right?
Oh, that's great. Just Me Sometimes Panda.
Me Sometimes Panda.
I love movie titles that literally just sum up what is going on.
He's so dumb. It's like, oh, so great. It's like Terminator. Fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah, some of the particular emotions that ended up being cut from the movie were surprise, pride, and trust. Surprise was removed because Pete Docter thought the emotion was too similar to fear.
I guess like fear and surprise are very closely linked.
I guess.
You know, when you're surprised by something, it's normally shocking.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, according to college-level psychology, there are 7 universally identified emotions, the 5 featured in the movie, as well as contempt and surprise. So I guess it's different enough from fear that it's classed as one of the 7 universal emotions.
Well, I guess that's like the 5 flavour profiles, right? Where everyone knows like sweet, sour, salty and like what?
Bitter
Do you remember them off the top of your head?
Bitter and umami.
Yes, that's what it's. The last one is umami. That's the one everyone always forgets. And it was like what flavor profile is umami? It's like it's hard to describe, which is why not everyone can think of it. But it is a very distinct thing you can pick out, and it's like broth.
It's like savouriness, right?
Yeah, think of like a nice meaty broth or gravy or something like that. Like you said, savoury. But it's hard to describe, but it is a thing that once it's pointed out, it's like, yeah, that is a thing. So I guess it's the same with these emotions and like contempt being like distinct from disgust.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here where it's just like, oh, this is the first film from Pixar to not have any main antagonists unless you count anger. And it's like, okay, cool, but I think the most interesting part of the movie is just the emotions themselves.
It's a literal emotional journey.
And I'm really, I genuinely am excited to watch Inside Out 2. Like, I think it's a really just, clever movie to make, as much as it is just, how far can we just take Disney and anthropomorphize things, as you said earlier.
Yeah, it's going to be a good movie. I think Disney doesn't really make bad movies.
Not really.
The worst you could say about a Disney movie is that it's forgettable. Like the criticisms are normally it's forgettable or it's too similar to other Disney movies. Like, you mean the things that get near universal praise every time they're released.
Yeah, pretty much.
Worst problems to have.
That's the thing is, I think Pixar have had a bit of a drop in their reputation over the past few years because they've been trying to put on movies at a more consistent pace, but there's not any really Pixar movies that I still think even to this day were necessarily bad. It's just maybe they're not reaching the highs of the Toy Stories anymore, or WALL-E, which I contest is one of the greatest movies that Pixar have ever made.
It's one of the most prophetic. God, people aren't going to lie down like fat sacks of shit on iPads. Well, have you any idea people watch Disney movies now, Disney?
Also just The Incredibles, which we talked about not long ago.
So good. I watched it the other day.
Mention The Incredibles.
Just sometimes I'll get drunk and be like, should I put a Marvel movie on? I'm like, no, man, Marvel movies are kind of formulaic. I want to watch Incredibles again, because it's so good!
It is just one of the best superhero films there is, yeah.
And endlessly rewatchable. It's probably my go-to comfort movie. As I want to watch a movie, Incredibles.
Hopefully one day we can get a Fantastic Four film that isn't The Incredibles that's good. But, we're still waiting on that.
So come on, Pedro Pascal.
Obviously, at some point in the future, we will discuss the Pixar theory. That is not what we're going to discuss today, but I do want to bring it up for another episode. So, I know there's probably people going why don't you mention all the Pixar interconnected stuff? It's that's just going to be its own episode one day, because that is a whole last thing.
There's a lot of meat on that bone.
Because there's a lot of movies. Cade's just barking in excitement in the garden because he's just excited to talk about the Pixar theory one day too.
He's loving it.
But yeah, let us know in the comments what your favourite Pixar film is, because there is a lot of just absolutely top tier picks like Cars 5 or whatever the fuck. I don't know how many Cars movies.
People really like Cars. People have weirdly obsessed with the Cars franchise.
But as far as I can remember, Cars 1 was the only one I really enjoyed. Cars 2, goddamn, what? You know what? Maybe that's the bad Pixar film.
Yeah.
Maybe there is one, and maybe it's just Cars 2.
There's always someone out there's no, Cars 2 is actually really good, you just don't get it.
Super top tier, yeah. But yeah, if you would like to continue the discussion about Pixar movies in our Discord, the link can be found below for our community Discord, where you can just talk and have extended discussions about what we're talking about, or just get involved in our community in general.
Hell yeah.
As always, if you'd like this video, then just give us a like and a subscribe and a notification bell and all the jazz that we don't like to say, but yes, we have to say it. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers, everybody.